Well, months later, the FBI is still upset over the Supreme Court ruling earlier this year, which made it just a little bit more difficult for them to spy on Americans. You see, in late January, the Supreme Court ruled that the FBI would need a warrant to install a GPS tracking device on a suspect's car, because that little thing called the Fourth Amendment. But of course, they were also very vague on the number of days that had to be on. Now, at the time of the ruling, the FBI had said that they had 3,000 GPS devices in the field. And the FBI's general counsel was quoted by the Wall Street Journal calling the ruling a sea change at a conference in San Francisco, saying that the FBI had to turn off all 3,000 devices. Well, it turns out that most were actually turned right back on. FBI officials told NPR last week that out of 3,000 GPS devices that they supposedly turned off in the aftermath of the ruling, only 250 of them remain off at this point. So that means that 2,750 of those GPS tracking devices are now back on. Now, how, you may ask? Well, as soon as the FBI got wind of the Supreme Court taking up the case, they worked behind the scenes to actually follow the letter of the law and get warrants for those trackers so they could turn them back on in order to find them. And they were successful for 2,750 out of the 3,000 of the trackers. Now, to add to the confusion, those numbers are far from exact because, guess what? The FBI isn't quite sure about that 3,000 number. A spokesperson told Kashmir Hill at Forbes that it's more of a guesstimate than anything else. But fret not. They're currently working with their 56 field offices to get a better handle on the situation. And they are not happy about any of this. Robert Mueller, FBI director, complained that the Supreme Court was inhibiting the FBI from doing its job. While testifying earlier this month before the House Appropriations Committee, he said that this ruling will, quote, inhibit our ability to use this in a number of surveillances where it has been tremendously beneficial. Which I find pretty interesting because for an overwhelming majority of the cases, the FBI will not be inhibited. They'll just have a warrant, which they should have had in the first place. And for the 250 GPS devices the FBI was denied a warrant for, well, that would seem to be a signal that they shouldn't be using them. If you did not have probable cause to attach a tracking device to monitor somebody 24 hours a day, then you shouldn't do it. That's just a thought. Now, the same FBI lawyer who said the ruling caused a sea change in the way that the FBI tracks suspects, which is clearly not true, he told NPR that the ruling made it too hard for the FBI to spy, saying if you require probable cause for every technique, then you're making it very hard for law enforcement. And that, I think, is exactly the point. It should be very hard for law enforcement to spy on Americans, and the FBI may have lost sight of that, which is a truly scary thing.